And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. John Linsky, your ambassador for Alumni Affairs, here with Season 6, Episode 18 of Looking Back with Linsky. And we have a very special guest today. You know someone is special when they go by one name. Yes, we have a one name character today. There are times I forget his actual name. After a decade at Columbus High School via Lord's Academy, which will be an interesting story, I'm sure. Uh, Father of two explorers, he science teacher, but yeah, he wears many hats at Columbus High School. He does myriad things. He does them very well. It is my pleasure to introduce the cowboy himself, or as the boys call him, Mr. Cowboy, Chris Connell. Hey, Chris, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Hey, John, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's you're an interesting character at Columbus High School, Chris, obviously. So before we get into how you got to Columbus and everything else, your background is unusual for South Florida these days. No question about that. When I was a very small child, there was a lot more people like you in Miami than there are today. So let's go back, Cowboy, to your Alabama roots. Yes, take us to the great state of Alabama and tell us where you're born and how you grew up, and then we'll go from there.
I was born in Anniston, Alabama, which is near the Talladega Speedway. It's probably about a 30-40 minute drive, if that. It's close to the Georgia line.
Hmm.
It's about 2 hours. If I was to drive east, it'd be 2 hours to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And growing up, had a typical backyard. I mean, when the day during the summers, sunlight came up, I was out the door. I came in at night, right before it came dark. We had woods surrounded us. I was always playing around, building forts and whatever else I could get into.
Yeah. You know, obviously the South is it's its own distinct area, no question about it. And Alabama, I think Alabama is an underrated state, Chris. Alabama has a lot to offer. People forget there's mountains in northern Alabama. The space program, Huntsville,
Yep.
Operation Paperclip, all those Nazis who put us on the moon. Yes. Muscle Shoals,
Yeah.
Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great, great state. What did you enjoy most about growing up in Alabama, Chris? Or some of the things, anyway.
Some of the things I liked about it, I think a lot of it was the family part. I mean, like we would go to church every Sunday mornings. Then on Wednesday nights, we would have like a potluck dinner and gathering of friends and everything. I think it's the feeling of a lot of community
Okay.
and a lot of that's what it was. And then just you could be in nature almost in a 5-10 minute drive. I love to be in outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, you've got Mobile. You've got the Gulf of Mexico. So, Alabama goes from the Gulf to the mountains. There's something for everyone there. Um, and yeah, it's a very traditional state. So I got a question, an Alabama question for you.
Uh,
Auburn or Alabama, because there is no in between. You either are or you aren't. What are you, Chris?
no, there is no in between. I'm Auburn all the way, War Eagle.
Okay. Okay. That's a definitive statement. You and Webb have something in common there. So you enjoyed growing up in Alabama. Tell us after graduating high school. Now, graduation standards in Alabama have improved.
Yeah.
At one time, as you know, if you could spell Alabama, they gave you a diploma. But the standards have increased. So after high school, talk about college and your career trajectory.
When I went into college, after high school, I went to, at the time, the college was the University of the Livingston University. Then it later changed to the University of West Alabama. I went in. I had always wanted to do biology, something in biology.
Okay.
And I did the typical freshman year, decided after a year. But along the way, one thing I would like to say, I actually, while I was at Livingston at the time, I also did cheerleading, coach cheerleading for the football for a season.
That's awesome. Now, you probably looked a little different then than you do now.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, is there people make fun of it until they take a step back. Is there a better way to meet girls than by being a male cheerleader? Come on, man. Good
You
for you.
definitely get notice them a lot more.
Yeah. I did not know that. Okay. With all the things you do at Columbus, maybe you can put on one more hat and be the assistant cheerleading coach. I'm sure Victoria would love to have you on her cheerleading staff.
But funny, when I was at Lord's, we would practice stunning.
That's awesome, Cowboy. All right. So where did your love of science come from? Just maybe from being outdoors all the time?
From being outdoors and for some reason, when I was in science classes, I just naturally felt comfortable in it and studying it.
Okay. Okay. So you're studying biology. Now, not everybody knows what they want to do at 18, 19, 20 years old. Did you have a notion that maybe, a career in medicine? What were your thoughts?
No, actually, I was looking at ecological surveying.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man.
It was
Yeah.
like companies would hire you to go in and do habitat studies before they built a plant or anything, look for endangered species, what are the watershed, how's it going to impact the watershed, and things like that.
Yeah, one of our alumni I know pretty well from the 80s does that in Gainesville. It's pretty cool. All right, so if that was your thought, and again, career paths change, decisions, get made. How'd you end up? Because as you know, I knew I was going to be a teacher, period. That was it. So how did you get into education?
All right, well, it's funny because I have to go back because the way I've always said it is God puts you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Because I was not one of my college professors was like, you should be a teacher. He goes, I've seen you studying. I've seen how you lead the lab when we have a lab test or something. And then in one of the zoology classes, he goes, you'd be a great teacher. I'm like, no, I'm never going to be a teacher. And so it kept going. And then I left junior college and I was working construction for a while. And basically my parents said, you either going back to school or you got to pay a higher rent at home. So I said, okay, I just sent out applications. Next thing I know, a little school I really had never heard of. And then it was a Catholic school, St. Leo University. I had gone on Christmas vacation, come back, and they accepted me. So that's where I think God started it, because when I got there, I got my biology degree. I still think I'm doing an ecological surveying.
Okay.
And then after I graduated, I lived in Ocala for a little while. And then I had the opportunity to come down to Miami, and I wanted a job, and something basically almost just was offered to me. And that was the job at Lord's. They brought me in, maybe do a thing in class. I was like, yeah, it's going to be a temporary job. It's going to so I'm down here. Next thing I know, 25, 24 years later, I'm teaching because I fell in love with it.
I wonder, we all have that one person that whether we know it or not, directs us to a career path. And I'm sure you think fondly of that professor who got in your ear, and even though you said he was crazy, here you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You glossed over it kind of quick. You get to Miami and you just don't end up as a man at Lord's Academy. That is an extremely unusual thing, as we know. So, how exactly did it go down? And did you have any idea what Lord's was all about?
At the time, I had no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
It was my ex-wife was from Lord's, and
Okay. Okay.
she had gone to visit the music teacher,
Okay.
and the music she was talking about. At the time, I was a fiance. I had just moved, or boyfriend at the time. I had just moved down here and looking for a job. And the music teacher said, well, they're looking for a sub for a teacher that's going on maternity leave.
Okay.
And so she goes, tell him to put his application in.
Man, all right, so now you find out it's all girls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You had never been in a classroom before, right?
Never been in a classroom setting.
Okay, because that's something that most of us can't wrap our heads around, that particularly the men at Columbus. So what was it like walking into an all-female environment, and were there any other male teachers on the campus?
There were male teachers. At the time, there was 3 or 4 of us
Okay.
that were on campus, and walking in for the first time was definitely a wow moment. Like, what? This is getting real now.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that they said, here's the job, it's yours. They said, this is the topic they're covering. You're going to come in, we want you to teach a class first.
Okay.
Came in, and then they let me work along with the teacher. I was there, but I was listening to see how the teacher presented and stuff. And then I came in and taught my lesson.
So you're kind of faking it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long, two questions, variables of the same question. How long did it take you to get comfortable teaching, and how long did it take you to get comfortable in an all-female environment?
Teaching, to me, I look back and I'm like, wow, because it really didn't take me that long, because I love talking about biology, and I loved it. So the passion of it actually came out. It would take over. I would get so excited. And the more excited I get, the faster I start talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That professor knew what he was talking about. Because listen, man, it's easy to make history exciting. It is. If you can't teach history, you can't teach. Great admiration for people that can make math and science exciting, because it takes a great deal of passion to do that. Because at the end of the day, it's not exactly, it isn't exciting. So your passion shone through. How about adjusting to the all-female environment?
Adjusting to the all-female, I think, again, because I'm one of 4 and I'm the only male, and I have all older sisters, it kind of led me to being used to being surrounded by nothing but females. And so I knew how far I could push things, what I could do. It kind of gave me a boundary.
Hey, have an older sister. It all lined up, didn't it?
It did.
It all lined up. So what were some of the other things you did at Lord's? Because at Columbus, you do everything, and I imagine it was kind of the same. Something tells me it was the same at Lord's.
Yeah, I started from I think from day one, I did traffic the whole time I was there. I was, I think, for about 8 years, the JV soccer coach. I did the lighting and sound for all
Jeez.
the, I ran all the lighting and sound for the productions, for drama, for choir, for any special events or anything we needed. If we had sporting events, when they got the gym, we did it, the sound system for it, anything in there, I was in charge of the sound for it.
So you just did the right thing, and if they asked, you just said yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That is the smartest thing that anyone can do in any occupation. So 16 years at Lord's Academy.
Yeah.
That's a career. What got you to, although I know a lot of it, what helped get you to Columbus High School?
What happened to get me to Columbus High School is Christine Taylor had moved over a year before.
Yes.
He was talking to Alina Sanchez, and they wanted to grow the environmental science program.
Okay.
And Christine knew I wanted to teach environmental science. So Alina reached out and asked if I'd be willing to come over and discuss it. And that was a hard decision because I was really comfortable. It was going well. But then I was like, I got two boys. I had always heard about Columbus and no brotherhood, and because we had the dances and everything, I was always chaperoning them. And so I came over, met, and next thing you know, a year later, I came on board.
Yes, you did. And Christine arrived and brought a lot of energy and professionalism to science. So from Christine, it goes to you. And, it was different. Your interview, your arrival was it was just different.
It
You
was.
uh, but you fit right in. And as we do, I mean, you've never lost your Alabama roots, and that's great. So you bring Alabama to Westchester. And these days, that's different. And it's just funny how nicknames develop at Columbus. And once they develop, that's it. And you became Cowboy. I mean, the principal Pew was calling you Cowboy from like day one.
It was day one. I
Yeah.
literally came in blue jeans. I'll never forget. I had blue jeans on, a button-down shirt, and my cowboy hat. And I remember walking in going, okay, I was so nervous of walking in.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
From day one, it was Cowboy.
And it's gotten to the point, and we've had this discussion. There's times I've forgotten your real name. I was talking to Dunn one day and I said, man, what's Cowboy's real name? And it's like, what's Flash's real name? What's Juice's real name? You forget these things. But my all-time favorite is the boys call you Mr. Cowboy. It's the greatest thing of all time,
Mhm.
So here's a question. All-female environment to an all-male environment. Talk about that transition.
The all-female, of course, I tried to relate it to things that they could more relate to. I mean, yes, some of them could relate to the camping, but then I'd have to relate it more to a mall I just changed what I referenced it to was one of the things. But I really taught it. It's funny. Everybody says, oh, it's a big difference. It's just the way you present it was the biggest difference.
Okay. So in a way, if I'm hearing you, it's no different than when you adjust when you're teaching an honors class to when you're teaching the not yet smart. You've got to read the room and know who's in front of you.
Exactly. You got to know your audience.
Okay. Perfect. So how long did it take you I mean, to us, you fit right in instantly. How long did it take you to feel comfortable?
Because it was funny, because when I came in, everybody helped support me.
Yeah.
And what happened is, like I said, I was doing this as a substitute. The teacher was on maternity leave. When she came back, I was going to be out of a job.
Okay.
Well, things happen. Teacher comes back. Another teacher decides to leave at Christmas time
Wow.
and not come back. And so they asked me if I would switch from biology to anatomy and physiology.
And you said yes.
I said yes.
Yes. Uh, was anatomy and physiology one of your strengths?
I had to study a lot.
Okay. Hey, man, as long as you're one day ahead, who cares?
Yeah, I was studying a lot because at the time we were going through the systems of the body, and we had to do we all in anatomy and stuff. We were doing the bone structure, so I had to remember. I mean, I had luckily just taken the classes, but then I had to go in and remind myself studying the bones and the different parts of it.
Well, good for you, man, because most people can't spell physiology, you know. So you get to Columbus and you had to be a little different because it's not like you were 24 years old right out of college. You were a veteran teacher, but you found yourself, and this is how it goes, doing a lot of the grunt work that usually goes to a young guy right out of the box. But
Yeah.
you were doing, that's the one thing that I remember explicitly is you just said, yeah, yes, of course. And you found your home in the parking lot. There's no question. And listen, anybody that's worked the parking lot, that's not an easy job. And you got to deal with idiot kids and churchgoers, and I'm not sure which one is worse. And you've got to have that fine line between being polite and being firm.
Mm-hmm.
And you're at that crossroads spot too, where there's a lot going on. But you learn from the master. You learn from Paul.
Yes.
Yes, one of the great characters in Columbus history.
Yeah, he taught me a lot. I mean, helped me. Like when I would get mad, he goes, "It's not that much," and then when he got mad, I'd be like, "Okay, remember what you told me? It's not that bad."
Yeah, that's the pot calling the kettle black there. Truly, truly. So you guys developed a great system and you became a fixture, and you still are. And now, Paul, God bless him, has handed it over to Alex Garabedian. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a no fun zone with you and Garabedian. I mean, people do what they're told to do. And that it has to be that way with our parking situation.
Especially now with the construction,
Oh, man.
it's one wrong thing and it can jam everything up. So
Yeah, and you take it serious, and it's not. Hey, listen, when it's hot out there, and that the heat's coming off that asphalt, it's not a desirable gig, but you do it, and we greatly appreciate it. You work in the cafeteria,
yeah.
and that you talk about herding cats, again, that's not easy, but these are essential parts of the job to make the school function. It's that simple. And you do it well. But you've also done so many other things that, you wouldn't necessarily equate with an Alabama boy. How did you get into student activities?
I guess because I would go to like I loved high school football.
Okay.
And so I would go to football games. I was always at the football games. I would try to make the soccer games. Any game that they had, I would try to, because a lot of my students were players. And so I would always try to show them support, and I enjoyed it. So I would go and watch. And so the opportunity came. They said, "Hey, would you want to do student activities? We know you do a lot at the activities already. How about doing this?" And so I accepted it.
Did you enjoy that, Cowboy?
I did. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
It was a lot of work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of fun, a lot of work
It's a
too.
lot of work. There were many days we put in late hours, but coordinating to see that kids enjoying everything, it made it worth it.
You've just hit on a couple themes. Presence. I think it means more to a kid, aside from being a good teacher, when you see them, when they see you show up to support them at a game, at an event, at an activity, they know you're there, and they don't forget that. And I think it gives it gives anyone enormous credibility with the kids, and they say, "Hey, well, this guy, he does care. It's not just a job." And that I commend you for that.
Yes, but like I said, it's something. I mean, I know as when I was playing, I enjoyed seeing the teachers and stuff. It made a difference. And like you said, the kids do love it, and they come up to you after games. Coach, thanks for coming to see a Cowboy.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And one thing I want to say though, when you were talking about the parking lot,
Yeah.
duty, the parents were actually questioning me or say they didn't recognize me if I don't wear my Cowboy hat.
Listen, it's like Michael Jackson's glove. It's essential. It's essential. And honestly, being up front there, coming on 87th Avenue, the number of times we've said, "Well, just go down to the guy with the cowboy hat." It works, man. It is your moniker. It's who you are. So if I was to ask you, Chris, do you prefer teaching older kids or younger kids? What would you say?
To be honest, I enjoyed both. I mean, that's my passion. I mean, I didn't realize how much I love to teach.
Okay.
And so really the younger kids are sometimes a little bit more challenging, sometimes the older. It all depends on each class because each class is never the same. I'm always learning something new from them, and hopefully they're learning from me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's an unusual, or not unusual. It's an uncommon answer because most people at our places, they either prefer the older kids or they want the younger kids, and they don't want to. Some people are better suited for either or. Well, good for you if you're comfortable with both. And you had a great classroom. That corner of a building, man, you saw everything there at the crossroads.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, that was a great room. Room's going to be missed.
That room will be missed. There are many memories made. A lot
And
of
you, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say a lot of memories and a lot of just not even a lot of learning was done, but a lot of real time life lessons were in that classroom.
Agreed. And the reason you were there, and there's actually thought that goes into these things, is that's the main entrance to the school. And we needed someone there that we could count on to instantly respond to something. So put Cowboy there, and it was an easy decision to make. The other things you do, how did you become equipment manager? Because you talk about a thankless job and a harder job than anybody can possibly imagine. How'd that happen, Cowboy?
All right. Well, that one happened because when my son started,
Okay.
I was both of them where Craig came in first and he was playing freshman football.
Yeah.
And then his junior year, Hunter comes in, he starts freshman football. Craig's playing JV. And so I was there, and then they had wrestling too. So some days we were football, and I was always going to the games, and they said, Cody McKeon had stepped down, and so they asked me, "You're here alive. Would you think about being the equipment manager? We think you'd be a really good fit." So I sat down, talked to Trujillo about it, what's required of it, and I said, "Yeah, I'll try it out." Three years later, I'm still doing it.
And you got a couple championship rings out of it, but I don't. It's a daunting job. How
No,
long did it? It's one thing to get used to the classroom. It's another thing to get used to everything that goes into being an equipment manager. How did you approach it? Because we got a big program, man.
yeah. Well, one of the things that helped me a lot is we have assistant equipment managers. And I had a student that would help me. And what we did was just try to go in and take inventory of everything and try to organize everything. So I knew where everything is. I sat with Cody a couple of days for about a week or two, just learning different things. How did they do this? Learning the system. But one of the things that helped me so much was they were already organized.
Okay. Okay.
There was already some organization. And
All
so
right.
when I stepped in, it was a lot easier.
And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Game day. Walk us through a typical game day for an
Okay.
equipment manager. Let's say we're playing a tropical.
So we're playing a
How's that work?
what happens, we'll get the students out a little early and depends on the time of the game. Usually around 3 to 3:30, I take the jerseys off, game day jerseys off the rack. I have them on a hanging bar. So the players, all they have to do is come in, take their number, and then I have a roster of game day players, and they put a check by their name that way I can keep up with who's already gotten their jersey, who
Okay.
didn't pick up their jersey. So they're about 3 or 3:30, they start picking it up. Then I start packing up my gear, mouthpieces, any parts to helmets, any shoulder pad parts. I'm making sure I have an equipment box that has everything I could possibly need for if something goes wrong in the game. I've got extra shirts, I got extra pants in case they rip. I take extra girdles. You never know what can happen.
Shoelaces, chin strap, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards. I have everything in a contained area.
How long does it take you to load out of the equipment room and get to tropical?
That part doesn't take that long. It's just you got 3 bags because you don't know if it's going to rain or not.
Yeah.
And so if it's raining, we got to take more towels. So I have a bag that's carried that's mostly just towels. Then I have the equipment, rain jackets and stuff like that. Then I have not shoulder pad parts, but different padding and different things. It's about 3 bags, two bags and a large stackable cart.
Okay.
Takes me about 10, 15 minutes from here. Then we get to Tropical Park. And then at Tropical Park, I usually I'll wear a sweater or something with a pocket in the front. And I'll stuff knee pads and mouthpieces because as they're stretching, I'm out there making sure they have their mouthpieces and knee pads. Because believe it or not, they forget it every now and then.
Of course. And then things happen in the game, obviously. Chin strap breaks, shoelace, whatever. Yeah. And Coach Dunn is a very, very organized, meticulous guy. And I'm sure that, you don't want to come up short on something in the middle of the game.
Especially not during a game.
Yeah. Yeah. So game ends, let's say the game ends 9-ish, whatever. By the time you load out and get back, what time do you leave campus, would you say?
If we're back at 9, I'm probably not leaving campus until about around 11, 12 o'clock. Because when we get back, I put my stuff away. Put it, if I have any old towels that got wet, I put them in a laundry basket. But as soon as before I've left, I've already put 2 yellow bins for them to put their jerseys in one pile, lay their pants in another pile. And what I would do is before I leave, I got to wait for all the players to turn in their uniforms. Once they've turned it all in, then I roll it back, put the shirts in the wash, let them wash, and then I'll go home.
That's a long day, particularly if we play on a Thursday.
Yes.
There's a fine line between Thursday night and Friday morning, and then you got to get up and teach. And I don't think people understand how challenging that is, both physically and mentally. And it's not like you're getting paid, you
No.
know, a serious amount of money. And so that's something a lot of people don't understand. So thank you for sharing that, because it takes a special person to do it. You also coach.
Yeah.
Your love of sports is obvious. What do you love about baseball? Because you coach freshman baseball.
I love watching them grow and watching them just mature during the season, because you'll
Nice.
see them at the beginning of the season. Their skills you can see the potential. And then by the end of the season, you see everything you've been teaching them being put into place.
Yeah, and the role of a freshman coach is invaluable, because people want to focus on the varsity, but if those kids aren't developed properly at the freshman level, they're not going to be all the way up to their potential by the time they reach the varsity. And so we've been very fortunate to have great freshman coaches in almost all our programs. And I see exactly what you're saying about watching those kids develop. And you got to have patience.
Yes, I have a lot of patience.
Yeah, no different than the classroom, but probably even more so than the classroom, because it's one thing to be teaching a subject, and if a kid doesn't know where Europe is, okay, he doesn't know where Europe is, but or whatever, what DNA is, whatever. But on a field, when you know what you want to have done, and you can do it yourself so easily, it can sometimes get to you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you've just got to remind yourself, well, he's 14, or he might be doing this for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
so that's another admirable thing. Let's talk about our mutual friend, Mr. O'Brien. You're involved with the Castaways, probably the greatest cause at Columbus High School. And the old man in the sea is getting ready to push offshore one more time. You two, I've known OB for forever, for better or worse. It's like a marriage. But you guys live close to each other. Talk about how important OB is to Columbus and to you.
Oh, man. I remember probably a year or two ago, OB was talking about teaching and stuff. And I was like, look, you're so important, man. You've got to be there for my 2 boys. I said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you go anywhere until I make sure my boys have you. To me, you can't leave Columbus without taking an OB's class.
Agreed. Agreed.
He's a legend. You look back at what he did with the cross country and everything, and you hear the stories of what he did for that team.
All the stories about him are true, Cowboy. All of them. But to still be out there going 110 miles on that water like that.
No,
God bless him.
No, I have the utmost respect for him when he's out there. Before he goes, I'm making sure that you have everything you need. I'm asking him, can I help you with packing? You got everything? Because and that's an incredible feat. I was at Lourdes when I first learned about it.
Okay.
One of my students was like, have you heard of the Castaways before? I was like, no. And they're like, look, you can actually track them. And she went, because this is at the time, not everybody had computers, but you had the computers lined up on the back wall.
Yeah.
And so she went into one of the computers on the back wall and pulled it up where you could actually follow them. And that's when I first time, that was like 2001 or 2002, someone right in there.
Okay.
I first heard about it. I was like, man, that's an amazing group that's doing this. And that's to go anywhere, what, 110, 170 miles? I mean,
Come on, man.
that's not easy. And you got to
No.
deal with the weather. You don't know if it's going to be storming. You got the wind. That's a lot of work.
And it's for a tremendous cause.
Yes.
Yeah. He's one of a kind. Your boys are at Columbus. Well,
Yes.
now, what was it like? Well, it looked cool when your son walked across stage.
Oh,
Okay. And Pew, God bless him, when you asked him about your hat, I don't think he would have let you not wear it, you know? How'd that feel, Chris?
oh man, there were so many emotions going on that day. I was happy. I was prideful. I mean, I had pride in my son. I was happy for him. And at the same time, I was kind of a little depressed because I enjoyed the little pop-ins in between classes. They would come in,
Yeah.
say, "Hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm doing this." Just a little quick check-ins and watching them grow from their ninth grade into senior year. All of that emotion came and hit me at that time, and I think that's the biggest hug I'd ever given him.
Oh, that's nice, man. And there were some tremendous photos, and on our social media, the response to your photos was off the chain. And what a great moment. Was it tough having two sons at school with you? Or were there moments where it could be a little,
Well,
touchy,
that's
whatever?
one of the things. It's a fine line because
Yeah.
all the friends know me.
Yes, of course.
So it was kind of hard. And I'd always tell them, you're going to be treated a little bit maybe different. I don't want that. And so just trying to find that work and friendship balance between his friends and even other teachers, and that just feel like, hey, let's do this. He needs to do this. It was at times a little, let me go into a parent mode.
Yeah. Okay. It's a blessing, but occasionally it can be, I wouldn't call it a curse, but a
No,
challenge,
it's a challenge at times.
But man, oh man, to have that, not everybody gets to have that experience.
Go back and, like I said, go back and like from day one when I took a picture with Craig at the front of the school, or when Hunter was at the front of the C when we got in, to see that and to watch them see where they started and to see the men they've grown into. It's an amazing, amazing experience. I'm blessed and thankful I got to experience it.
It's what we do best, isn't it?
Yes.
Um, any regrets leaving Lords, or did you make the right move?
Looking back, as I said, God puts you in the right places.
Yeah.
Time that you're in, I think my time there was there for a purpose, and now my purpose is here.
Yeah. And how do you see, from when you started a decade ago, the evolution of technology in the classroom, even in 10 years, never mind 20? What are your thoughts on where education is going? AI is here to stay. Like it or not, it is what it is. How are you adapting? And I know it's a work in progress and it's early, but how are you adapting to AI and the teaching of science?
How am I adapting? Well, one of the things I've started doing, especially like towards the end of the year, we had a major project due on the sustainability problems of South Florida.
Okay. Okay. That's a pretty cool project. Yeah. Okay.
So they got to pick each group had to do their own, had to do it. We didn't have any repeats of projects. They each had their own topic. And one of the things I let them do was use AI to help them create their presentations, because they still had to do all the research to put it into the AI to hopefully show them the right way of using the AI to help them to make it a more professional. And some of the videos that they made with a voiceover through AI generated videos was incredible. And they all came back to me and said, Ms. Connell, I learned, you talked about this, but when we did it, we learned so much more. We realized how much you were correct.
And I know people are hesitant about it, and I often wonder what I would do with AI as opposed to how I used to get ready for class. But when you really take a step back and acknowledge the advancement in technology and society, okay, for you and more for me, but for both of us, I mean, our AI was an encyclopedia.
Yeah. I mean, I look back, like
Okay.
we were saying, what's it from when the time I said technology since I mean, I started out, we had computers in the back of the classroom. That's the only way you could do anything
Yeah.
on a computer. You had to work in teams. You had to work. One group would get the computers, then another group's doing desk work, and you switch. Then we go from there and giving notes. I mean, just think of the way I gave notes. I was writing notes on the overhead projector onto a
Yeah.
board and just writing notes that way. We went from that to PowerPoint, and then you go. Each kid now, we don't even have a textbook. They started with textbooks, then we moved to iPads. And then from iPads, we've got the computers and the Macs, and no books are being carried.
Yeah, Chris, I think it comes down to you can fear it, you can fight it, or you can embrace it. And I was an idiot. I remember when smart boards came in, because I was a blackboard guy, man.
Yeah.
The chalk and everything else. I don't need this stupid. It took me about 2 days to figure out I'm an idiot, because this is going to make me a better teacher and the kids are going to learn more. And I think, fear it or embrace it. The choice is yours, because it ain't going away.
No, it's
You know?
not going to go away anytime.
So let's go with the flow. Um, a decade at Columbus High School. If I was to ask you now, after 10 years, what does being Marist mean to Chris Connell? What would you say?
Being Marist is showing the boys firmness in the classroom, holding them to a certain caliber, but loving each one of them, and being able to try to reach and make a real connection, and hopefully setting the right example for them.
Bro, that's a perfect answer. Really is. Yeah. Boy from Alabama becoming a Marist educator. Go figure. Listen, Cowboy, we've wanted to do this for a long time. You bring so much, and I'm not blowing smoke at you. I'm speaking on behalf of everybody. You bring so much to the school, intangibles that can't be measured, the little things that make the big things work smoothly. And you love your job, and you love the school, and you love the boys, and they love you. I'm telling you, cracks me up. I laugh when they call you Mr. Cowboy. It's like the greatest thing I've ever heard. And the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is keep doing it for a long time. Okay.
I plan on it. Thank you.
We're glad to have you, my brother. So, Explorer Nation, I hope you enjoyed this episode. All of our episodes proudly sponsored by Albert Barthélemy and his family. And I think we've got one more before we wrap up season 6, but this certainly was a lot of fun. So thank you, Cowboy. Appreciate you. So Explorer Nation, as always, buenos tiempos and adelante. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.